Hi there, and welcome to Tilda's tutorial on optimizing websites for search engines. Organic search traffic can be a primary source of visits for practically any business, especially one that doesn't use paid advertising. That is why search engine optimization, also known as SEO, is so essential. By performing it, you ensure that your website is capable of gaining as much organic traffic as possible. In today's video, we'll be mostly talking about a so-called technical SEO, meaning about settings that you manually adjust in order to help search crawlers and your potential clients find your website easily. If you're looking for guidance on content optimization, please check our free online learning resource, Tilda Education. We have plenty of articles on the topic there. Right, without further ado, let's get started.
First, let's get clear on the concept itself. So what exactly is SEO and why do you need it? To put it simply, SEO is the process of optimizing a website and its content for search engines like Google, so it ranks higher in search results. Therefore, you have better chances of people discovering you. When users conduct a Google search, simply Google information that they are interested in, they make what's called a search query. The search results page, in turn, consists of the results, relevant links, for that particular search query. Among organic search results, you can oftentimes notice a few listings that are marked sponsored. Those are paid search results that are sponsored by advertisers that use services like Google Ads. The thing is, it can be quite costly to run pay-per-click ads, or PPC in short, depending on your industry and the keywords you're targeting. This is where SEO comes in handy. It doesn't require a large advertising budget to see results. Some may argue this point, but it's also much easier to perform proper SEO optimization than run PPC ads effectively without wasting tons of money on experiments first. SEO experiments won't cost you much. Worst case scenario, you won't get as much organic traffic as you'd hoped for. Also, by doing SEO, you, directly and indirectly, work on making your website more useful for people, so it's kind of a win-win situation for both parties. Those who are looking for specific information and those who are providing it. If you want to improve your search engine ranking, you need to pay close attention to these 5 factors. The first thing that greatly affects the website's ranking is page loading speed. Your website should load as fast as possible no matter what device visitors use to access it. A slow-loading site can not only irritate visitors, negatively affecting their overall user experience, but also drive traffic away for good. The second powerful ranking factor is mobile compatibility. All the content on your website should be well responsive, and its layout should be adjusted to different screen sizes and devices, whether it's a 4-inch smartphone or a 4K monitor. The third crucial ranking factor is properly adjusted technical settings. This includes every behind-the-scenes setting, such as title tags, alt texts, and so on, that helps search engines discover your website, understand its content, and index it fast and efficiently. The fourth vital ranking factor is the content itself. Visitors should find what you have on your website informative, entertaining, and, most importantly, relevant to their initial search intent. Good quality useful content not only builds your authority, it's also more likely to be shared so more people get the chance to discover you. Besides, metrics like time spent on your website, bounce rate, and so-called click depth are part of behavioral factors that influence ranking as well. Last but not least is traffic. If people access your website directly, through browsers' bookmarks, for example, or keep coming back for more content in general, it's a sure sign for search engines that your website is valuable and worth checking out, so they rank it higher in search results. The 5 factors that I just mentioned may seem pretty obvious or even generic, but the truth is that these are the very elements that make your website's ranking. In other words, this is how you prove to search engines that your site is of high quality and deserves recognition. It may seem difficult at first, especially the settings part, but the good news is that Tilda does most of the heavy lifting automatically, so you don't have to. For example, Tilda stores all of the data on fast and secure servers located all over the world. More specifically, all websites are hosted on a global content delivery network, also known as CDN. This technology ensures optimal page loading speed no matter what part of the globe your website is being accessed from by tracing the visitor's location and loading all the images and scripts from the server closest to them. Apart from using CDN, all images uploaded to Tilda are automatically converted to WebP, a new generation image format optimized for the web. This format not only reduces image size without compromising its quality, but also provides efficient loading on different devices and screen sizes, which, as I've mentioned earlier, is a big part of that mobile compatibility ranking factor. If you want to learn more about CDN or image optimization methods used on Tilda, please check out the links in the description. Here is the full list of the things that Tilda provides by default that significantly improve search ranking. So if you do choose to build your website on Tilda, you don't have to worry about a big chunk of technical SEO and can focus on generating quality content instead. So both search crawlers and users perceive your website as valuable and useful. However, it's important to note that not everything can be automated. Certain settings require manual adjustment. Let's explore how to set them up now. We've come up with this helpful SEO checklist for you to follow along. The optimization process can be divided into 3 main steps that you need to complete. Some parameters are configured in the page editor, some in the page settings, and some in the site settings. Typically, it takes from 15 to 30 minutes to configure all the settings for a one-page website, for example. For a multi-page website, you can anticipate spending approximately 10 to 20 minutes on configuring each page. In general, how long it will take to optimize your website mostly depends on the complexity of the content you have there, like the number of images, titles, etc. Another good news is, neither of the settings requires touching a line of code. Everything is done in the intuitive and user-friendly Tilda interface. Let's start with configuring title tags. Generally, title tags are used to describe to search crawlers the structure of a given page and to indicate the hierarchy of information presented. H1 is the primary heading of the page. It's used to convey the key message. Thus, you should only have one H1 per page. H1 tags, in comparison to other title tags, have the biggest impact on ranking, so make sure to include relevant target keywords. H2 and H3 tags, in turn, help robots better understand pages' structure. However, the keywords included within these tags do not affect search engines' algorithms that much. They can be of help in organizing content into small subsections so your website is easier to crawl for crawlers, as well as navigate for people. Now let's figure out how to set up title tags for headings on Tilda. You can do this in the page editor. To begin, open the project that contains your website. Next, navigate to the specific page you wish to optimize. Note that you can add title tags to all pre-designed blocks that contain a title. Such blocks can be found, for example, in the Title, Cover, and About categories of the library. To do so, open the Settings tab and select either H1, H2, or H3 values under SEO title tag. I select the H1 value for my example. Don't forget to save the changes. For the rest of the blocks on the page, such as the workshop schedule block, for instance, you can assign an H2 tag and so on. When it comes to the zero block editor, you can add title tags to the headings in blocks you build there as well. Let me add one to my page. Then I click the Block Editor tab. If you select or create a text element here, you can choose H1, H2, or H3 values for it under the tag setting. Here are some tips to keep in mind when creating an H1 tag since, as I've mentioned earlier, it plays a significant role in improving your rankings. First and foremost, it is important to remember that there should only be one H1 tag per page. Having multiple H1 tags on a single page can potentially confuse both search engine crawlers and users. Besides, it should be unique for every page of your website so that they don't compete against each other. While there is no technical limit to the length of an H1 tag, it's recommended to keep it under 60 characters. Also, make sure to include target keywords in your H1 tag for that particular page. Having said that, better stick with coherent sentences rather than a bunch of keywords put together. Lastly, remember that the H1 tag's main job is to accurately represent the page's content. So if you have a landing page for a car leasing company based in New York, it would not be beneficial to include a phrase like "sell a car in Seattle" in the H1 tag. Let's move on to the next optimization step. It involves adding alternative text to images, also known as alt text. Alternative text helps search engines understand what the images are about, index them, and display them in image search results like Google Images. Google Images, in turn, can serve as an additional source of incoming traffic, especially if your website has loads of pictures. In addition, alt text also does a lot for increasing a website's relevance, as well as makes your content more accessible to visitors with disabilities like visually impaired people. They can use special tools like screen readers that read aloud the alt text, providing them with a more inclusive browsing experience. Now let's figure out how to add alt text to images on Tilda using pre-designed blocks from the library. To add an alt text, open the Content tab of a block that contains images, and then click the Text button next to the image in question. 3 fields will appear under the image. In the Image Alt for SEO field, you can enter the textual description for the image. Note that not all blocks available in the library have the same exact setting for adding alt text. While blocks from the image and gallery categories are configured similarly, for other block types, the setting for adding alt text may look slightly different. Let's take the TS205 block from the Reviews category as an example. I go to the Content tab again, then click on Items, and here I find the image I want to add alt text to. Upon clicking on 3 dots next to the image, the SEO Image Alt Text field will appear, and this is where you can enter your alt text. You can add alt text to the images in ZeroBlock as well. Let's do it now. I open the ZeroBlock editor, select an image I want to add alt text to, and find the alt setting. This field is meant for an alternative description. Here are some tips on creating a good alt text. First and foremost, a good alt text is a descriptive one. Having said that, try to keep it under 250 characters. In addition, don't forget to include a few target keywords if appropriate, making a coherent sentence with them. Also make sure that the alt text for all images is in the same language as the rest of the content of the page. So if your website uses English, there is no point making alt text in Chinese or French. Lastly, it is important to note that alt text cannot be, and really shouldn't be, as it's an industry standard, added for background images. Right. Let's move on from the page editor to the page settings now. Once you are in the page settings, the very first settings to optimize here are the page title and page description, sometimes referred to as meta title and meta description. What are those exactly, and how can they help with SEO? Page title and description get displayed in search results, also known as SERP, and serve to help potential site visitors understand what your website is all about and convince them to visit it. Together, they form a so-called search snippet that can strongly impact a user's decision-making process, encouraging them to click on the link and explore your site. Note that these meta tags are not visible on the actual web pages and get displayed exclusively in search results as part of the search snippet. Now let's look at how to create an effective page title. Page title or meta title is used to summarize the main idea of a specific web page. It is recommended to keep the title under 70 characters and ensure that each page on your website has a unique one. Also, incorporating target keywords relevant to the particular page is crucial, as search crawlers also consider this parameter, meaning that page titles have an impact on rankings. Sometimes people confuse title tags like H1 and page titles. Let's look at the difference between those two and why it is necessary for them to differ from one another. It's pretty simple, actually. When a user searches for something on Google, they are presented with numerous search results that could potentially match their search query. So the ultimate objective of the page title is to persuade that user to click on the link that directs them to your website. Therefore, the title should be compelling enough, possibly even include a strong call to action. Again, page titles are only visible on search results and not on the web pages. H1 tags, along with other title tags, are displayed directly on web pages and are part of the actual content. They should be clear and informative. effectively conveying to visitors what they can anticipate discovering as they continue scrolling down the page. So it would be pretty ineffective to, for example, encourage users to click on the link through the H1 tag when they are already browsing your website. To sum up, if the page title is the exact copy of its H1 tag, it won't kill your ranking or anything. It's just a misuse of these two settings that serve different purposes. Now let's move on to a page description, which is sometimes referred to as the meta description, and figure out what makes an effective one. The primary function of the page description is to provide additional details about the content of a specific page, as well as double down on convincing potential visitors to click on the link. Note that since search algorithms almost entirely do not take into account keywords used in the page description, it is advisable to focus on creating descriptions that are targeted towards people rather than web crawlers. So avoid making it just an incoherent list of keywords. Besides that, ensure to have a unique page description for each page, as well as keep it under 320 characters. It's about 50 to 100 words. Lastly, it is highly recommended to avoid creating descriptions that are the exact match of the page titles. This is because search algorithms will be compelled to crawl deeper into the page in search of missing information. If, for any reason, they are unable to find the required information, it can have a negative impact on rankings. Right, now let's take a look at how to configure the title and description for a web page on Tilda. To begin, navigate to the page settings of the page you want to set a title and description for. Once in the General tab, find the page title and page description fields. Here you can enter all the necessary information. Note that the title and description you specify here will be used for the search snippet and social media preview. If you want them to be different, say shorter for the search description and more detailed for the social preview, you can create unique versions in dedicated tabs. Go to the SEO tab and click on the Customize Search Results Preview button located at the bottom. Upon clicking on the button, the page title and page description fields will appear. Again, if the data in the SEO tab differs from that in the General tab, the snippet will use the one from the SEO tab. As you can see, this tab also allows entering target keywords for the page, as well as specifying a canonical link. We will look at some of these settings in a bit. Right, moving on to the next optimization step, a human-friendly URL. What is that exactly? A human or user-friendly URL is an address that is easily understandable by people and resembles a coherent sentence. Unfriendly URLs, in turn, are those that consist of a string of random numbers and letters, lacking any logical meaning. Let's take a look at an example. On Tilda, when you publish a new page for the first time without manually specifying its URL address, it will be automatically assigned one. The automatically assigned URL will typically look something like this. However, such a web address does not give us any idea of the page's content. Moreover, it can look suspicious to some users or resemble a rough draft to others. That is why it's recommended to use human-friendly URLs instead, not only for users' convenience, but because it's one of the minor ranking factors. For the Contact Us page, for instance, you can specify the word contacts in its URL. Similarly, for a page detailing shipping options, incorporate the word shipping in its URL. This way, your website visitors can take one look at URLs used on your website and have a rough idea of where they will be directed. Now, let's take a look at how to come up with good human-friendly URLs. In order to make a URL human-friendly, limit the number of words used there to no more than 5. Additionally, try to maintain a maximum of 3 levels of nesting for one URL. The nesting levels serve to guide visitors in navigating through the pages of your website, indicating the depth of the page structure. Let's say I have a blog page that includes an internal link leading to the checklist section. Within that section, there may be another internal page featuring a specific checklist, an SEO one, for instance. In this scenario, my website would have 3 levels of nesting. Finally, if you need to separate words in your URLs, it is advisable to use hyphens rather than other symbols like an underscore. This helps prevent them from breaking. The next setting to configure is the badge for social media that's often referred to as an open graph image. Open Graph is a meta protocol originally developed by Facebook that turns web pages into graph objects. To put it simply, it's a standardized way of representing the data about your website on other websites. For instance, when you share a link directing to your landing page through a Facebook post, instead of displaying the link as it is, it transforms it to a beautiful preview with an image, title, and description, making your content potentially more clickable. This data that gets displayed can't be found on the pages themselves. Facebook can read it in the code and then create a beautiful link preview or a badge out of it. This protocol is supported by most social networks like Twitter and Pinterest, and messengers like Telegram and WhatsApp. While Open Graph does not influence ranking directly, you can write any titles and descriptions you like and don't think too much about keywords. It definitely has an indirect influence because it makes links look more noticeable and eye-catching, potentially earning you more views, clicks, and shares. Search engines, in turn, consider those things, especially shares. If your links get published on other websites, they will count as backlinks, as signals to improve your website's ranking. So make sure to upload an image and add a title and description for Open Graph. Now let's figure out how it's done on Tilda. Navigate to the page settings first, then go to the social media tab. Here, click on the Customize Social Media Preview button. Upon clicking on the button, fields for the title and description appear. Enter them here and try to keep each under 60 characters. Otherwise, they won't be fully visible on Facebook and other social media. Below the fields, you can upload an image. When it comes to imagery, stick with using high-quality images that are relevant to the content of the pages. The recommended resolution for such images so they display well on Facebook and other socials is 1200 by 630 pixels. Oftentimes, a screenshot of the hero section of a page is used as a badge, so potential visitors have a more clear idea where exactly they end up landing after clicking on the link. That's about it on the Open Graph image. Among the last settings for you to check before SEO optimization is complete is whether all the pages are allowed for indexing. On Tilda, you can exclude some pages from indexing without touching a line of code. It's done in the same SEO tab. If you click the Customize Search Results Preview button and scroll down, you'll find two checkboxes: indexing and links. Once you've checked the Prevent Search Engines from Indexing this page box, search engines are prohibited from following this particular page as well as crawling and indexing its content. That means that this page neither can appear in search results nor has any influence on your website ranking positions. So what are the cases when there is no benefit in indexing web pages? Let's look at some examples. The first possible scenario is when you have some pages that are intended for only certain types of visitors, like actual customers or newsletter subscribers, for example, such as the privacy policy or terms of service agreement. There is no point for these pages to be seen unless people want to buy something or agree to subscribe to your newsletter, so they shouldn't be a part of search results meant for everybody. The second scenario is when a page is being finalized and is not yet ready to be viewed by website visitors. In this case, it makes sense to prevent indexing of draft pages that are under construction until they are fully finished. One tricky thing about this scenario is that once you're done designing a web page, it sometimes can just slip your mind to uncheck the box. Then the page gets published and doesn't attract much traffic for obvious reasons. You can feel frustrated and assume that something is wrong with the content, when in reality it's happening for purely technical reasons. That is why it's so important to double-check this indexing setting for every single page you have on your website before publishing it. And that is about it for the page settings. Now let's switch to site settings and take a look at what can be SEO optimized there. These two settings we're going to talk about are crucial as they have great power over SEO and affect how the website functions and its promotion potential in general, not just concerning individual pages. Let's begin with the most important setting: redirect to the default website version. First, let's figure out how to set up HTTPS on the website, that is to install an SSL certificate. Navigate to the site settings and locate the SEO tab. Here under HTTPS settings, find the Manage button. SSL is an encryption security protocol that ensures that any data exchange, including online payments, between a visitor and the website is encrypted. Websites that have SSL installed have HTTPS in their URL instead of HTTP, where S stands for secure. The absence of an SSL certificate can adversely affect your website's ranking. It also makes your website look less reliable. In addition, some browsers like Google Chrome will not only show a not secure warning when trying to access such websites, they will likely block you from visiting them altogether. Also, if a customer is purchasing something on your website while using public Wi-Fi and your website is missing an SSL certificate, their personal data may be compromised. That is why it's so important to connect an SSL certificate. On Tilda, you can get one for free and do it with just a few clicks. Let's take a look at how it's installed. While in the SEO tab of the site settings, click on the Manage button. Note that issuing an SSL certificate requires purchasing and connecting a custom domain first. You can connect the domain you bought to your Tilda website in the Domain tab. Once you have a custom domain configured, simply move the toggle switch into the on position. After the switch lights up green, the certificate is issued for your website. This process usually takes from 5 to 15 minutes. I had to wait for just a few minutes, and you can see that an SSL certificate has been successfully installed. Now, every time someone is accessing my website, it's served over HTTPS, a secure connection. So my website's visitors' personal data is safe. After configuring HTTPS, one related setting is to be adjusted as well. Let's get back to the SEO tab. Here, scroll down to the end of the page and under Default Website URL inside Metafiles, tick the following checkbox. Use HTTPS scheme in robots.txt, sitemap XML, and canonical URL. If you feel a bit overwhelmed by unfamiliar terms, no worries. It's actually not that difficult at all. Robots.txt is a text file that provides search crawlers with detailed instructions on which pages to crawl and which to ignore, kind of like that exclude from the indexing setting we previously looked at. Sitemap XML is an XML file that lists all your website's essential URLs, kind of a roadmap, eliminating the need for search crawlers to find them on their own. This can be especially handy when your internal linking is not perfect or you have a large website that has a dozen pages. If you have the file, you ensure that search algorithms won't miss any important pages that need to appear in the search results. Note that if you build your website using Tilda, all the mentioned files are created and updated automatically. Once you've checked the box, all that's left for you is to configure the automatic redirect to the default website version. Why would you do it exactly? The thing is that search engines perceive any URL that begins with different prefixes like HTTP, HTTPS, HTTP, and www as if they all point to different pages, when in actuality they direct to the same exact page. If multiple URLs point to the same page, it's considered by search algorithms as a duplicate. Duplicate content not only confuses search engines, but makes them decide on their own what page among identical ones should be indexed and end up appearing in search results. When it comes to fighting duplicates, a canonical URL is a powerful tool. A canonical URL signals to search crawlers which page is the preferred version. This setting helps fight duplicated pages that, for example, were created by mistake. You can assign a canonical link in the SEO tab of the page settings. The dedicated field is located right above the indexing checkbox. To further ensure that none of your website versions are considered by search engines as duplicates, you can also set the automatic redirect for your domain. By doing so, no matter what URL is used to access your website, meaning which of the mentioned extensions are used in the address, it will be automatically redirected and loaded via HTTPS. To enable the automatic redirect, while in the SEO tab of the site settings, click on the Manage button under www HTTPS redirects. Then check the two following boxes: Redirect from www to the main domain and Redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. This way, thanks to the automatic redirect, even if someone has entered your website's URL that starts with HTTP into their browser, your website will be accessed via secure HTTPS protocol instead. Don't forget to save the changes by clicking the Save button. Moving on to creating and setting up a 404 error page for your website. What is a 404 page, and why do you need one? A 404 error page is the page that appears on your website every time a server could not find a user-requested page. This can be handy in several scenarios. For example, there is a typo in the URL, or a non-existent page is being requested, or the page used to be on your website but had been moved or deleted at some point, and so on. A good 404 page not only informs users about the error and provides an excuse for the inconvenience, but also gives clear instructions on what to do next to keep them on your site. This way, not only is the negative impact on the user experience minimized, but the bounce rate is also reduced. Therefore, it's certainly a good idea to put some effort into designing a good 404 error page. As the matter of fact, any regular page can be assigned as a 404 error page. Let's take a look at how it's done on Tilda. First, navigate to the project that contains a website you want to create a 404 error page for. Then click the Create New Page button. So let me add a title. Then a short description, and a Back to the Home Page button. This is just one example. Don't hesitate to be creative and use humor when appropriate. It will pay off in keeping users on your website. After I've created a dedicated page, I can assign it as a 404 error page. To do this, navigate to the Site Settings, then the More tab, and under the 404 error page, select the page you've just created. Note that any page except for the home page can be assigned as the 404 page. I save the changes. Now, if I get back to the project's dashboard, I can see the page I've just specified among the rest of the pages. It even has a corresponding label. Note that there is no need to exclude this page from indexing manually as this is done automatically. Also, don't forget to republish all pages. Now let's see this page in action. I enter a URL containing a typo that I've deliberately made. As you can see, upon typing a wrong address, I get redirected to the 404 page that suggests proceeding to the home page from here. Moving on to the next setting, which involves setting up the favicon icon. Favicon is a small, square-branded image that is displayed in web browsers. Its main purpose is to help users easily locate your website when they have multiple tabs open. Favicons do not affect ranking directly, but if you have one, it does influence visitors' overall user experience. Also, websites that have favicons catch the eye and appear more trustworthy in search results, which can have an impact on CTR, meaning how clickable your link is. Since it can be beneficial, better upload one. It won't take much time nor effort. To do this on Tilda, navigate to the Site Settings, then the SEO tab. Scroll down the page and under Favicons, click the Manage button. Note that in order to upload a custom image, you have to have a paid subscription. And here are some recommendations when it comes to configuring a favicon. For the favicon to display correctly in browsers as well as in search results, the image should be in one of the following formats: PNG, JPEG, ISO, or SVG. Note that on Tilda, you can upload 2 versions of the image, so it's supported in both light and dark browsers' interface styles. As for an SVG format, keep in mind that even though it eliminates the need to upload 2 versions of the image, some browsers like Safari don't support this format, so your favicon won't be displayed there. When it comes to image resolution, better stick with 32 by 32 pixels, since it's considered the most optimal size for favicons that applies to most browsers out there. Also, make sure that your image has the word favicon in its title, so search crawlers as well as browsers can recognize it easily. Those are pretty much all SEO-related settings that can be configured in the site settings. Another thing that can be of use, especially if you're performing SEO optimization on your own, is adding your website to Google Search Console. What is Google Search Console exactly? It's a free Google service that offers a set of tools that can help you manage your presence in Google search results, like checking the indexing status of certain pages, analyzing popular search queries, discovering crawling errors along with Google recommendations on how to fix them, and so on. The connection process is very simple. All you have to do is to have a Tilda website as well as a Google account. Then you can follow one of the 2 methods in order to complete integration. The first one is the easiest. You can do everything right from the Tilda interface. First, navigate to the SEO tab of the site settings. And under Google Search Console, click the Manage button. Then click Connect. Sign into your Google account in the pop-up window. Allow Tilda access to your Google account, and you're back to Tilda. Here, click the Add Website to Google Search Console button, and that's it. Now, if you sign into your Search Console account, you'll find your website already added there and can overview your site's performance along with current recommendations. As for the second method, it involves initiating the integration process on the Google Search Console side rather than on Tilda. Again, sign into your Search Console account, then click on the Search Property bar, and then Add Property. Enter the URL of the home page and click Continue. Next, you'll need to verify your domain ownership. To do that, copy a TXT record generated by the system. Then log into your domain provider where you purchased your domain name and add the copied TXT record to your domain's DNS configuration. Right, I've added my TXT records off camera, and I click the Verify button. Note that the verification process may take some time. After it's complete, you'll find your website among the list of properties. That's it on adding your website to Google Search Console. If for some reason you don't feel like connecting Google Search Console, no worries. Tilda actually has a similar free built-in tool that is designed to help you fix all kinds of SEO-related errors. It's called SEO Assistant. Let's take a look at how it works. While in the SEO tab of the site settings, click the View button under SEO Assistant. Here, in a separate dashboard, you'll see a list of pages that require your special attention, meaning the system detects some issues, as well as recommendations on how to quickly resolve them. Since I have just one page that I've already optimized, there isn't any tips for me. Let me add a few pages that are missing some configurations to show you how it works. I've added a few new pages, and as you can see, the system signals that one of them is missing the H1 tag, and the other has an unfriendly URL. Also, here you can find a list of pages that are currently unpublished, as well as pages that were purposely excluded from indexing. We recommend that you check out SEO Assistant from time to time, and every time a new page has been added to your website. Last but not least, if you have an e-commerce website that contains a product catalog or a blog page where you publish new content using Tilda feeds, you can optimize them as well. For example, you can assign an SEO title, description, and keywords to every product in your catalog or a blog post in your blog, increasing the chances for your page to appear in search results for the relevant queries. You can read more about it in the Tilda Help Center. The link will be in the description.
And this is what makes basic SEO optimization for your Tilda website. If you're looking for gaining more organic traffic, we recommend that you do that for every single page of your website. It's not that difficult, especially if you follow this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to check out the video description for guides on SEO-related topics. Thanks for watching and good luck with optimizing your websites. Bye!